In my last video, I told us about the deceptive nature and wickedness of human heart as a result of having rebelled from God. But in that same video, I emphasized on man being in the very image of God. You'll discover that these particular expressions contradict each other, because human being cannot be deceptive. That is, the heart of man cannot be deceptive and wicked and at the same time be in the image of God. So something happened, and what was that? That is exactly what I'll show you now in the book of Genesis, chapter number 3, verses number 22 to 24, which says, in New Living Translation, "Then the Lord God said, the people have become as we are, knowing everything, both good and evil. What if they eat the fruit of tree of life? Then they will live forever." So the Lord God banished Adam and his wife from the Garden of Eden, and he sent Adam out to cultivate the ground from which he had been made. Verse 24 says, "After banishing them from the garden, and the Lord God stationed mighty angelic beings to the east of Eden, and a flaming sword flashed back and forth, guarding the way to the tree of life." What do we establish from here? There was an ostracizement of these people. They were banished from God's presence. That is to say, God's presence was withdrawn. They are no more in the image of God, because immediately the image of God, that is God's presence, departs from human being, that person is equivalent of beasts in the field. There is nothing different between beasts of the field and a man, a woman, of whom the presence of God is not in his life. That is why we see barbarism everywhere today, because of the absence of the presence of God in one's life. Immediately Adam was banished together with the wife. They were taken away from the presence of God. That was the time they become beastly in nature, and suffering continued. Permit me to emphasize here that a life devoid of God's presence is a life that will always be lived in pain and agony, just as God said to Adam, "Go now and cultivate, till the ground." And the content of the judgment was that out of your sweat you will eat. The man now entered into the life full of sweat and struggles. But that wasn't what God prepared for man from origin. Then, if we look at other developments that occur, we see that God sent an angel, a mighty angel, to prevent them from gaining access to that place again, so that they will not have access to the tree of life. It was done for a purpose. But man is now on his own. Just like as many people today are on their own. They don't recognize God. They don't take God serious. They don't even know that there is God that created them. Not actually that they don't have mere knowledge that God exists, but their attitude proves that they deny the existence of God. Apostle Paul simply describes such people this way in 2 Timothy chapter number 3 and verse number 5, and he says, "They will act as if they are religious, but they will reject the power that could make them godly." So the problem is that many people today, they claim to be religious, but the power that makes them godly, which is the power of God, they reject it. That was the problem of mankind. If we keep looking at these things, we discover that the judgment that came upon man, brought about Many things falling apart in the life of man. But God is still clamor for relationship with man because man was made in his own image. The truth is this: no matter how a man values animal, man can never enjoy relationship with animal to the fullest. Same applies when we look at God's yearning to relate with man. Angelic beings are there, but those angelic beings are not made the way man was made. In my next video, I will tell us how wonderful man is made and how angelic beings are made, that made God to keep yearning for relationship with man. But this time around, man has failed. There must be a way to bring man back to God, and that's one of the reasons incarnation occurred. I remain Pastor Elisha, a rising voice in Africa and a reformer with a difference. Thank you for watching.